this has been a series that I've been wanting to go over for a long time now. However, it has been, I think maybe 4 or 5 years in the making of trying to find this series. This is Aliens from Dark Horse Comics, 1988. Now, before I even talk about this real quick, I guess we can say this. This series matters and should not be forgotten. And what do I mean by that? After the events of James Cameron's Aliens, long before they made Aliens 3, Dark Horse picked up the IP and they made a direct sequel. If you ever heard The Earth War, that's what this is. To me, this will always and forever be the real sequel to Aliens. And this series right here also kind of is why I cannot stand any sequels since Alien 3. This takes place years afterwards, as where it feels like with the movies. Don't get me wrong, they're entertaining enough. But I hate when we're talking about the movies. They'll say, oh, well, this one's going to take place, 30 years before the first one. This one's going to take place between Alien and Aliens. And I'm waiting for them to start saying this is going to take place from the time that Ripley got out of hypersleep and fed Jonesy on the Nostromo. I'm waiting for that. That's how ridiculous it is. So before we dive into this, if you guys are also curious about this series, after Alien 3 came out, the movie, they had to backpedal. Kind of like how when they went forward with the Star Wars sequels, we're not going to talk about that. But before that, that was called the Thrawn trilogy. If you guys have never read it, highly recommend it. So when the sequel trilogy came out, they had to take all the Star Wars that they did, like the Thrawn trilogy, and make it extended universe. That's what happened here. But because this is the events of what happened to Ripley, Newt, and Hicks, they had to change the names. So any of the Dark Horse reprints that are singles like this from this time period will have the original names, but they have done collected reprints and they changed their names. And I've said this when we went over the other Alien books. When I was a kid, I picked up these novels. I didn't know what it was, but if you ever pick up all 3 books, there's Aliens Book 1, Book Hive, then there's Earth Hive, and then there's Nightmare Asylum and the Female Wars. These novelizations are what really got me into Aliens other than the movies. Now, the names that they chose, Hicks becomes Wilkes, Newt becomes Billy. And spoiler, if you've never done this, if you've never read any of these, so pause it if you want to go read it and come back. When Ripley is revealed, which we've gone over the last part of the Earth War, so I'll make sure I put these in a chronological playlist. In these, and I'm sure these as well, Ripley is an android because they can't say that it's actually Ellen Ripley, because at that point, we'd had Alien 3, we've had Resurrection and all that stuff. But I would highly recommend trying to get any type of collected trade. Speaking of, I know you guys are like, get on with the comic, but I want to establish why this is so important. A buddy of mine gave this to me for Christmas. And it's basically a Dark Horse reprint of all 6, because there's 6 of them. We'll be going over them. All 6 books, and they preserved the names and the black and white. The only downfall is the paneling, which you guys will see, they got rid of, and that's why I wanted to go over the actual book. But this is cool because it comes with the backup story called Lucky. I think it's what it's called. Yeah, Lucky. And I'm sure this is from another Aliens book, but it's cool that they included it in this. And I say check this out because these are getting so hard to find, at least in first prints. I've looked at like first prints of just issue 1 here that we're looking at. The prices on eBay are extraordinary, at least for me, because I'm that way. But I was able to get all 6 for a decent price. So before we actually dive into the book, I do want to give a shout out to Infinity Flux Comics from Chattanooga, Tennessee. These guys had all 6 for a decent price, all first prints. in really great condition, minus some ticks, but these are from '88. Love this original cover. In a sense, it doesn't have anything to do with the first issue, but still, it just gives you that Xenomorph hive feel. Now let's dive into this, guys. Now that we've kind of had some of the history. Print date was May 1988. Script, Mark Verheiden. Art, Mark A. Nilsson. And lettering is Willie Schubert. Speaking of, if you do want to read these are done by Steve Perry. And I will say, even though these are with the new names, Steve Perry, to me, and Mark Verheiden, I will say that too, feel like the Chris Claremont of the Aliens universe. Because Mark Verheiden and the art team here gave us the series that launched. Because, I mean, after this, we've gone over Genocide. We've gone over, I think, Hive. And those were, I think, written by Mark Verheiden as well. But while all that was going on, I don't remember who did the original Dark Horse comics of AVP. But Steve Perry also did the novelization of AVP. And the names, because there's no movies of them, are preserved. And that's how I fell in love with Machiko Noguchi. And it pisses me off that when they did the movies, they put it on Earth instead of on, oh my God, I can't remember the planet's name, but you guys get my gist. But yeah, Steve Perry, Mark Verheiden, hell yeah. Now we open up. Do you want to talk about last night? And I love that they do a little callback here. Why? It won't make any difference. Give me a try. And so we come back. It started when my friend Carly found an old disc about camping. The real stuff about the real land. The disc talked about the camping fire and sing-around songs. We borrowed a crawler and drove out to one of the remote generator buildings. We couldn't light a fire, but we plugged a crawler heater into one of the battery outlets and got close to keep warm. I'm freezing. Whose idea was this? Yours, Power Drain. I remember thinking how much I liked being there, away from the colony and the machines, just my friends. What else did they do on the disc, Carly? They burned rations over a fire, which seemed kind of dumb. And sometimes they told stories, scary stories. And I love this old black and white. It just very much has those early indie comic films, not films, freaking comics, like you would expect from Dark Horse, because this is still when they were kind of underground. Same with like Mirage Studios. Think of like Peter Layard and Kevin Eastman. And one thing I think why also these mean so much to me in the first two Alien films is, yes, Aliens had lots of action, but still Cameron made it a slow burn, just like Ridley Scott made the first one a slow burn. So if you're looking at this and you're going to think like one of those TikToker videos where it goes, wow, that's a lot of words. Too bad, I'm not going to read them. This is the type of comic that relies on atmosphere and not constant boom, 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 boom. So even though, yes, it feels like a lot of reading, you are invested, you feel it. Carly went first. It was something about vampires and witches and monsters. I knew it was straight out of the disc library, but it didn't matter. With the wind and the rain and the hum of the heater, it was as scary as any video. And then he drank all of her blood. God, I hate vampires. Shh. About then the heater stopped working. Maybe it was a short. Everything turned cold and blue. And I started to shiver. Your turn, Newt. What's the scariest thing you ever saw? No, I don't want to go back. It was your idea, Newt. Don't chicken out now. I knew if I didn't tell, they'd never go back. Okay, I know a scary story. A real scary witch. And a witch? Don't be stupid. You know something scarier than that. Tell us. And what I love here is we're thinking this is a memory. But you kind of notice that her friends are kind of starting to act a little rude. You're thinking, what's going on here? I started to get mad at them, picking on me like that. All I wanted to do was go home. I decided to tell them the scariest story I know. And look, that looks like Rebecca Johnson. There are these things that live in space. They live to feed and to hate. And notice while we're reading this, and I love how the black and white and the line work here works in tandem. How they go from kind of acting more like little girls having fun together. But look at how they start to change. How their faces start to darken. That's how artwork helps push a story. They have acid for blood and skin as hard as whole steel. You don't see them until they're on top of you. And then all you see are the teeth glittering like sparks as they snap. Maybe they're from another world, or maybe they just exist in the black hell of space, feeding on anything they find. It doesn't matter. Nothing matters but those teeth snapping shut on bone and brain, tearing, cutting, crushing. But it doesn't end in death. I don't feel so good. They use what's left for breeding, burrowing into tissue, spreading like cancer, until the whole parasite is whole, until the hate can build again and again. Mad, what's wrong? Something. Oh God, no! I don't feel. And then just I love how look at the panel work. So we just get these straight, very clinical borders. Makes you feel like you're on a spaceship or inside a shake and bake colony. But as the alien starts to make his appearance, look what starts happening to the paneling. Not again! Not again! I guess that's when you found me in the hall screaming, Newt, wake up! You're dreaming! If you're feeling better, I'll loosen the straps. You can do anything you want. It won't stop the dreams. Nothing can stop the dreams. Whew. That's how you kick off a frickin' sequel. And it makes sense too. I love this little callback where it says, you want to talk about it? Why? It won't make any difference because that was her thing. So this is about, it doesn't distinguish in the comic. I found that out from this, I believe. This was 13 years after the events of Aliens. I'm sorry, I always forget the S. And then here, nothing can stop the dreams. They're all around us, man. They got Drake and Vasquez pinned in the generator station, Hicks. Knock it off, stick together, and we'll get through this. Me and Frost will take the front. Hudson, lay down some kick-ass cover. The rest of you, ease around back. We're going to outflank these mothers. I love how Newt's like, outflank these mothers. Crow, honey, I'm going to have to put I'm going to have have the private take you. Don't leave me. It's going to be fine. I'll be back. And look at how Newt's dream, how it went from like that very clinical feeling border feel. And then it started to digress as the alien came into the picture. But look at how we go into these panels and everything is just blood and gore and very uncomfortable. Hicks telling Newt, I gotta open the generator room. And when he opens it, Frost, Vasquez, Drake, they're both dead. Something inside them. Frost, Dietrich, Hudson, give me a fix on your position. There's something damn strange in. Hicks, help me. Don't leave me. And then we realize this is Hicks's dreams. Now, to kind of give you an idea of the stage being set here, 13 years later, as I said, Newt, since being returned to Earth, has been put in a mental institution. Everyone thinks she's insane. Hicks, as you can see, front and center. Give it a rest, Perkins. I still got 24 hours to serve on the D&D charges. He's still in the Marines, but he is basically in the brig, for lack of a better term. However, they say, get your shit together. And I love how it says, I don't have any ranking friends. He's sick, man. You don't know what he's got inside him. Sounds like you don't have any friends, period. Watch this disc. I knew it was a bad sign when Perkins actually opened the cell. I learned a long time ago, nobody goes out on a limb unless they want something. Somebody must want me bad. And so look at this. 1, and I'll count the front and back. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 pages. And we're brought up to speed on who, if we never, if you never saw the movies back in the day, then I'd call you a square. 6 pages. We're brought up to speed on who Nix and Hicks and Newt are. That's all we needed. We know where our heroes are to a degree. We don't know fully. We don't know why, looking at this through early eyes, we don't know why Newt's strapped down on the presser bed. We don't know why Hicks is essentially in a brig. And before we can answer those, we get that kind of cutaway. And we are now introduced to the Coast Guard and the space freighter junket. This is important because we get our protagonist set up here, and then we get the cause of what starts the Earth War. They still call them the Coast Guard, even though the coast they're guarding is 300 or 400 miles out in space. It was a lot cheaper to abandon a ship than retrofit and refuel, especially the old-style nuclear jobs. A lot of the industrials just dumped them in decaying orbit, waiting for gravity and atmosphere burn-up to solve their problem. That worked until one of the flamers crashed half intact near a coffee plantation on the island of Hawaii. The radiation killed the indigenous population and made it damn near impossible to find a good cup of Kona. So now the Coast Guard tags the floaters and blasts them before they can decay into the atmosphere. Keeps the world safe and gives the guard boys something to do between poker games. So these guys, think of it, they kind of work as the salvage crew that we saw at the beginning of Aliens. They have to probe the ship, see if there's any like data cells to what's the word I'm looking for, to salvage, and then if there's anything else of value, and then they blow it. But then I love how we go from this beautiful splash page and just kind of regular paneling to that kind of POV camera, that RTS monitor look. Very awesome. And as the probe goes in, we see kill us all. Is that blood? I think that's blood, man. Now they say, bring the drone back. We need to blow this thing up. However, something catches a ride on the drone. That's total vacuum and it's alive. This is probe ship Dutton. We've pulled something in from, maybe it's some kind of parasite, and I love this. This has been used so many times in different Alien promo art. That's such an iconic panel right there, the way it just flops right into the bay of this spaceship. Now this is where we learn that this is where we see that's on the disc that Hicks is watching. And another thing that I did not point out, notice in this panel that we see of Hicks, his left side of his face is in shadow. We come back to when they open the bunker, his left face is covered in shadow. I want that to make that very clear for the moment. I knew it was only a matter of time before it happened. That's why the Marine Corps never kicked me out of the Corps. They knew it too. I saw a guy tear his suit once. He had time for one scream, and then his blood began to boil. All things considered, those boys on the Coast Guard ship were lucky. Probe ships weren't designed to withstand a hull breach. The alien was clever, but not that clever. The ship imploded, taking the alien son of a bitch with it. But the proof of one meant there were more. What was the old phrase? Where there's smoke, there's fire? Yeah, the fire's of hell. And then, before we can get any more with that, we are introduced to Salvaje. Excerpts from the book, The Evolution of Television. Now, I'm not going to read all of this. I want you guys to go and read it. But basically what this is saying about the evolution of television, commercial television, as it was known in the 1980s and 90s, disappeared with the application of superconductive transmission technology to the then existent cable television system, with systems offering 5, then 1,000, and then eventually 5,000 channels. It became economically infeasible for advertisers to support mainstream dramatic programming. Soon, instead of hundreds of thousands of viewers, audience shares were calculated in the tens. With the dissolution of the FCC, cable access was open to all persuasions. And a resurgence similar to that seen during the mid-1980s, religious programming became a television staple, outnumbering non-doctoral programming nearly 100 to 1. And what they do to kind of trick television now is they introduce what's called the iBox. So it's basically like this. It looks like the. Why is every time I get in front of the camera with you guys, I can't remember squat? The damn thing that they used in Blade Runner to see if you were a synthetic or not. I can't remember what the test was called, but it looks like that little camera, and then it beams directly into your eye, kind of like the box from Batman Forever, which I cannot believe that I had to make a Batman Forever reference for Alien. Anyway, Salvaje is a religious zealot. I'll set it up on a medium shot. You in the backdrop, pretty dull stuff compared to the sound massage and subliminals your competition's been using. The truth of my message will shine like a beacon. The others are pretenders. I shall share the gospel of the true Messiah. It's your money. Get ready. I should have you on in a couple of minutes. So Salvaje is jacking into the iBox to do very quick religious television. And because it's illegal, they have to keep their things quick so they don't get caught. Keep Salvaje in mind, and I do appreciate that even though they had to change our main characters' names, they did keep Salvaje the same in the book. So he's kind of, again, one of those very important characters. Now remember the iBox. This is what it looks like. We come to see now that Newt is in a type of hospital. Hi, Newt. Check out Dee Dee. She's averaging 50 switches at, hey, great. I can't even walk straight. And then look what it says, I want you to join our. And in the way the channels are flicking with their eye, because what happens is if your eyes start to roll away from it, like you're bored, it changes the channel. So I love how it basically showing beam directly in your eyeball, and it says, I want you to join our. Dr. Hill's got you blued again, doesn't he? That's the treatment, isn't it? Bad dreams, sedatives, can't eat, sedatives, talk out of turns, sedatives, compassion and love. You have to be strong, Newt. In a couple of months, you'll get your hearing. It'll never make it. Everything's slipping away. Memory, control. I can't even walk. Get your attention. For the new world of doctors can't figure me out. I didn't do anything. I just don't get along. Is that crazy? Newt, they're going to hear. And I love how when we get the gunshot of the television, she loses her shit. I didn't ask to be born out there. No one warned me about the risk. Newt, please. The Church of Immaculate Incubation. And notice how we go from the dull eye look here. Look at how it's just like, yeah, whatever, very like passive, to very attentive. You can't get it out of me with drugs. I saw them tear my mother apart like a doll, and they're still out there. Seeks the ultimate communion with the true. Then we go from a wide eye, and look at how very docile and bored this Dee Dee chick looks. Smiles. Teeth. Freeze it. There. That is some creepy crap. And I just love how the tension of Newt being in the insane asylum with the TV, just it adds this extra layer of just very claustrophobic, very paranoia, schizophrenic feelings. Now Hicks is finally, remember what I talked about with the shadows? He goes to meet, oh God, what is his name? Hold on a second. Colonel Stevens and Dr. Arona. And notice how he says Lance Corporal Hicks to see Colonel Stevens. Oh, I'm sorry. They're expecting you. I take it you've seen the disc on the Dutton? Yes, sir. And you know. Look at his face. Yes, sir. You can say that. So finally we were revealed to what that alien acid finally did to. Because remember, after it happened in the movie, we only saw gauze over his face, especially in the closing scene. So once he got back to Earth, they kind of put Hicks back together the best that he could. And this is where Arona goes over what happened on Acheron. I was part of a detachment sent to investigate loss of contact with the terraforming colony on the planet Acheron. Command suspected an alien presence was involved. And look at how we go from the clinical straight lines to the rugged blood memories. Now, in the novelization and any other collected reprints later down the road, as I said, Newt is Billy, and then they change Acheron to a planet called Rim. And instead of Newt immediately coming back to Earth with Hicks on the Sulaco, this Billy, she is sent to a planet called Pharaoh, I think, or something like that. And then there's another alien infestation, and that's where she meets Wilkes, or in this case, Hicks. So keep that in mind when you're reading those. But Arona tells Hicks that he thinks that with the information they got from the Dut, they found the aliens' homeworld. He wants Hicks to lead a detachment to get specimens. And Hicks is like, "Sir, I wasn't aware that my record was the subject of this discussion. My name is Arona, and it's entirely pertinent, perhaps. A review is in order. In the course of your mission at Acheron, you suffered severe acid burns, deep and quite disfiguring." And if you remember the elevator scene from Aliens. And then we finally get a little glimpse of what happened after Sulaco. Once back on Earth, he spent several months in quarantine, waiting to be cleared into the general populace. There was considerable concern over the infectious nature of the alien spore. According to hospital records, you didn't have a single visitor during this entire period. When you were finally reinstated active duty, there seemed to have been problems in readjusting to military life. Former comrades, fearful you might somehow be infectious from the alien blood, avoided contact. Your later record is painfully repetitive, drunk and disorderly, brawling, public intoxication. Quite disappointing. Oh God, no, don't touch me, don't touch me. And so Hicks kind of has gone down a spiraling self-destructive pattern after being the only survivor of Acheron, other than Ripley and Newt, but he lost his whole squad. And so the way that Arona finally gets him, because he goes, "The hell do you want from me?" And so to kind of bait Hicks, he says, "You seek redemption. I seek specimens." And so Hicks basically wants to make his life duty to wipe out the entire alien population. Now, Newt receives a visitor, which she never has before. "You have 10 minutes. You are being monitored. Any discussion of hospital therapy or treatments will result in the termination of visitation and suspension of privileges. Is this understood?" "Yeah, sure. Enjoy your visit." And I love how when we finally bring our two protagonists together, it's like a fade out of a memory. "Newt, I had to see you." "Hicks, there isn't much time, and you're the only one who understands. I've been thinking, dreaming. Your face, the aliens." And, she kind of references the face here. He goes, "They found the homeworld. I'm going out, Newt. I'm going back." Now, the novelization, I feel like this is cool. And remember, they only had 6 issues to really get the ball rolling. So why I say that both Mark Verheiden and Steve Perry are very important is because Mark Verheiden set the blueprint of what the Earthverse should be. And even though Steve Perry had to work around all the extended universe bullcrap, listen as he expounds on this part. And I'm going to read it with the reprinted name so that you guys kind of get an idea of what you'll be getting into. Wilkes stared at the kid. Well, she wasn't really a kid anymore, was she? Turned out to be a nice-looking woman, even in the hospital whites, and obviously stoned on whatever they gave her. He wasn't sure why he'd come, except that maybe she was the only other person who would understand the dreams he kept having. He tried to track her down a long time ago with the other Marine and the civilians who'd escaped from the second bug nest. But they'd all been carefully hidden away, probably in some medical center like this one, or some outpost a dozen light years from anywhere. Or maybe they were dead. Why did you come? He pulled his thoughts back to the young woman on the other side of the thick, clear plastic wall. They found what they think is the homeworld for those things, which is where we're at right here. Now, before I go any further, I do want to go back a couple of pages here. She goes, Wilkes, yeah, how are they treating you in here? You're real. Yeah, how they treating you in here? You're real. Last time I looked, yeah. Oh God, Wilkes, I wasn't sure you'd remember me. You look different. He touched the scars on his face. Colonial Marine surgeons, bunch of butchers. What are you doing here? They told me you were in this place. I figured I had to see you once I found out you were having the dreams too. About the monsters. Yeah, I don't sleep that well myself. Haven't since REM, Acheron. It was real, wasn't it? Oh yeah, it was real. They had me. I'm in as long as they keep reactivating my secrecy clause. But you were a civilian. They decided to wipe you. But it didn't work. At least, not all the way. Billy slumped, but at the same time felt a sense of relief like none she'd ever known. It was real. She wasn't crazy. The dreams were memories trying to get out. And then Hicks here says they found the homeworld. I'm going out, Newt. I'm going back. Take me with you. You don't mean that. I shouldn't have come here. Can't you see? They're killing me. The drugs and the dreams, they're taking my mind. What do you mean? What are they doing to you? Hey, leave her alone, damn it. I don't want to die here. Help me, Hicks, please. Leave her alone. Womp. You saved me once. Please don't leave me. Visitation period is over. Please exit through the rear door. Newt! Continued next issue. Now, as we go back to the book, they're killing me in here with the drugs, the therapy. I have to get out. The monitor screen next to her flowered, and a white-haired old lady appeared there smiling. Discussion of therapy is not allowed, she said. This visit is terminated. Please leave the visiting area immediately. Wilkes, please! Wilkes found himself standing, his fists clenched. Please leave immediately, the old lady said. Billy stood and leaped at the clear wall. She slammed her fists into the hard plastic. Let me go! The door behind her opened, and two large men entered. They grabbed Billy. The young woman struggled, but it was no use. The wall began to polarize and darken. Hey, fuckheads, let her go, Wilkes yelled. He lunged at the wall, slammed into it. He backed off, threw his shoulder into the wall again. The wall was unmoved. The monitor on his side of the wall has started darkening and came to life. The same old woman. This visit has been terminated. Please exit now. Thank you for coming and have a nice day. Wilkes, help me! Billy screamed. Then the sound faded and the wall went totally dark. She was gone. Wilkes leaned away from the wall. He stared at his hands. Sorry, kid. I'm sorry. And that is where chapter 4 in the novelization ends. So I do highly recommend when you read this series, have these on hand. Because it really, to me, once you know what this is, because I didn't when I was a kid. I had no idea. And Wizard, they never talked about it from my memory, at least the issues of Wizard magazine that I had as a kid. But if you want to know more, because again, in comics, you only get an X amount of run, and there's only so much that you can say. And plus, in novels, comics, you don't want every single thought, because then that starts to get really over encumbering. So I love that this kind of expounds on what they're thinking, what they're feeling. So I would say read all 6 of these and then read these, or read them both in tandem, because it's going to make your experience so much better. And so with that said, guys, I know this is a long video, but I just wanted to stress the importance of these comics and novels, because this is the history of Alien before Alien 3 and any of the other hit and miss stuff that they've given us over the years. So with that said, if you've enjoyed what you've seen, please first and foremost support your local comic shop and bookstore and pick up this series. And if you've enjoyed this review, really would appreciate taking a moment to like, share, and subscribe. Helps the channel more than you could possibly know. And if you don't mind hitting that fancy little Xenomorph bell next subscribe, that way as I can upload content, you guys get notified. Come to the channel, and I love talking with you and hearing your thoughts and feedback down in the comments or the socials, which I'll make sure the links down in the description. Speak of, if you enjoy what I do and you'd like to support the channel, I have additionally left a PayPal tip jar link down in the description. And if not, either way, I still appreciate you guys stopping by and checking out the video. So with all that said, hope you all continue to have an absolutely amazing day reading, and happy hunting, everyone.